Hello guys, and welcome to a very anticipated video. My setup for the new year, and I can't tell you enough how relieved I am to leave 2020 behind, and I think that most of you can agree with that. I'm starting fresh with a brand new notebook from Arch & Olive, which arrived in this really cute box, and I've only heard great things about them before, and since I record this voiceover after setting up my bullet journal, I can tell you already that this notebook has met my expectations and so much more. And for my Swedish subscribers, I want to recommend a website called Tidformera. One of you actually wrote to me in a comment about them, so I'm super thankful for that. It's a Swedish shop that sells Arch & Olive notebooks and so much more. And it's where I got mine. And a fun fact about this journal is that this was really not a color that I wanted in the beginning, but I kid you not, I could see all the colors turn from available to sold out in seconds. So I quickly grabbed this one before it also got out of stock. But I'm so happy that I did. I fell in love with this crimson red color when I first opened the package. And they also included a little gift too. It's a handy little ruler that you will see me using a lot in this setup. And if you notice that my voice goes a little bit up and down, it's because I've been feeling under the weather for the last couple of days. But enough babbling for now, let's get into this setup. So I decided to start off the whole setup with my key, and I think it's a very nice way to start off a bullet journal. It's basically a page which you can refer to when taking notes. And as you can see on screen, I wanted to spice this page up a bit by drawing a key on the left side of the actual keys. I think it adds a really cute touch, and it was actually pretty simple to draw. I used two different kinds of grey to create the shadow effect, and then just wrote key with my Tombow Fotonoske, and then wrote the keys inside of the border. For the cover page, I decided to write 2021 all over the page. I've noticed that a simple setup for the new year with one or two colors works best for me, since I will later on continue to fill in the notebook with different themes for the upcoming months, so it feels nice to keep the beginning as minimalistic as possible. I used my grey zebra myliner with the bullet tip to fill in the numbers, and then I used a Pigment Micron fineliner in the size 0.1 to draw simple flower doodles inside. And doing that, I feel like a pretty boring spread turns interesting, and you can do whatever doodles you want inside. I also traced the edges of the numbers with the same fineliner to make things even more detailed before cutting off the edges of the page. Making a Dutch door is always a bit nerve-wracking, especially in a brand new journal, but it gives a really nice effect, and what I like to do is to have my goals and my New Year's resolutions on the other side so that you easily can flip to them. But I didn't like that you could see a bit of the key when you flip the page, so I glued in a piece of black craft paper and wrote a motivational quote which I found fitting for the new year. And I'm actually really happy that I did put a black scrap of paper in, since it gave the spreads some dimension. Here I will write down any goals that I want to strive for during 2021. Like, I really want to start nursing school, for example, and my resolutions can be anything from eat 100 broccolis to work out every day, since nobody really ever complete their resolutions, right? No, but honestly, I don't really dare to trust in anything I write down here, since 2020 turned out to be such a weird year. I feel like if 2021 can be a little bit more eventful than this year, I'm satisfied with that. Okay, so the next page is my year at a glance. It's basically a page where you put down all the mini calendars for the year so that you can refer to it while setting up for a new month, or want to know how many days there is specifically for the month. The font I use here is very simple. I wrote 2021 with my grey Tombow in the number N95, which is one of my favorite brush pen colors, And over that I used a fineliner to write the numbers again. I got some inspiration for this page from Pinterest, so if I find a picture I will insert it here. I think it's a really cute look with the flowers on the side of the text, and I also like the subtle colors. If you've been doing this spread in your journal, you can probably agree with me that this is the most time-consuming page of them all. My hand cramped so much by writing all the headers and writing in the numbers for the mini calendars. But it's so nice when it's finished, since it's very helpful when you set up the monthly spreads, and it's also a cute look in your journal. I can't imagine my buju without it. This next page is an inspirational quote page. I like to sprinkle some quote pages all over my journal so that I get some motivation on a daily basis. Especially in a New Year setup like this, I like to find quotes that is fitting for the new year. So I decided to go with the quote, "This is the beginning of anything you want." I really like this one since it's true in some ways. The future is in your hand. It may not be correct always, but sometimes you can actually decide where you want to be in a year from now. Just imagine all the beautiful things that can happen to you in a year, and just give it some thought about where you want to see yourself. Maybe if you set up some goals on the way, your dream is not so impossible as you first thought. I like to think like that when I feel stuck in some way. You have the time to change anything that does not feel good for you. So just keep moving forward, guys. I'm rooting for you. The next 4 pages is my yearly log, and I actually contemplated whether I wanted to keep this in or not, since I didn't find any usage of them for 2020. I don't know if that has to do with the whole situation or not, since it was actually pretty hard to plan anything in advance. But either way, I finally decided to give it another go. It's actually a perfect place to write down all important dates and family members' birthdays and so on. So I'm going to sit down someday and fill that in. I actually have a pretty large family, so I find it hard to keep track of dates like that sometimes. Okay, so the supplies I used here was my Tombow Furunosuke for the calligraphy font for the months, and also as the base for the white gel pen. I also used the bullet tip of my Tombow to divide the months into sections. I really like to use a grey marker for dividing pages, since a black pen can sometimes be a little bit harsh. I didn't want the pages to look so blank, so I added the same flower doodles as I used in both my Gerty glance and the quote page. This way I tie the pages together and make it look cohesive. The grey and black didn't take over too much, so it was a perfect decoration for my future log, since I will fill it in with a bunch of text later on. And to save you from boredom, I will just snap my fingers and move on from the future log. Next up is a pretty new addition to my bullet journal experience. I tried out this grid spacing cheat sheet in my mid-year setup a few months ago and found it really helpful, so I decided to keep it in this time as well. I also kind of like the look of this page, even though it's basically just numbers and lines. And I know it can look a bit overwhelming if you're a beginner. I know this since it took me almost a year to try it out myself. But to explain this as quick and simple as possible, you just count the dots of the page and then write down the numbers. Then you count how many dots you will need to section in a page in 3 pieces, for example. Then continue doing as many sections as you feel needed. To finish this page off, I wrote grid spacing cheat sheet with a grey zebra eyeliner, Tombow for the nosegay and a fine liner. I like using a variation of different pens to keep the fonts interesting. Now on to my all-time favorite page to set up, my book tracker for 2021. I'm a huge book lover and I like to keep track of the books I read and which ones that has been my favorites for the year. So this is a must in my bullet journal. I've seen such beautiful takes on these book trackers, and last year I recreated my actual bookshelf and left some blank books to fill in with the titles of the books I read. But I really like the look of the separate shelves with potted plants and some decorations on them. I know this specific setup has been made plenty of times before, but I try to give it my own touch to it by adding a little board in the bottom and a section where I can write down how many books I want to read and how many I did read. The ruler that I got from Tidformera really came in hand for this one, since I feel like the use of a ruler gives a more clean look. I added some decorations in form of a Polaroid camera, a potted plant and a candle, since I felt it would look a little bit boring if there were only books on the shelves. So down here I kept it very simple, just added these simple fonts with a fine liner, and then I filled in the shelves with the same fine liner to make it look more like wood. And I felt like this page was in need of some contrast, so I added some black to the board with my Tombow for the nosegay, which is great as a base for white gel pens. So this board I will fill in at the end of 2021 with my top 5 books for the year. I didn't want to leave the shelves blank, so I went in with a brown pen, which I kind of regret now, since all the other pages does not have any color in them. I think it would have looked nicer with a grey marker on top instead, but it's too late to change that now. To top it all off, I colored in the decorations on the shelves. I actually have a baby blue Polaroid camera, so I felt it was a cute touch to the spread. Onto the next page we have my favorites for 2021. This includes movies, TV series, piano and music. So this is basically a page where I will write down my favorite things from the 4 sections. So for example, if I find a song that I really like, I will write it down here to make sure that I won't forget it. The piano section is a little bit different though. There I will write down songs that I want to learn on piano and then cross it over if I actually succeed learning that song. I really liked how this spread turned out too. It's simple but still fits the theme and will be fun to fill in. And for the font I drew these little banners and then filled it in with black and wrote the header in white. Adding some black like this really helps with the contrast. The page next to the favorites page is another quote page. So this time with the quote, "A little progress adds up to big results." And I think it ties nicely with the other quote. Once again, setting smaller goals for yourself will help you reach your main goal. So don't have too much pressure on yourself from the beginning. Start small and then build your way up there. The last 2 pages of this setup is a tracker for all the places I will go for 2021 and also a lunar calendar. Starting off with the travel tracker, I wanted to add this sign doodle in the corner, so I drew some planks and then wrote the places I've been to so far, and I felt like that was a super cute decoration for this page. For the header I kept it simple by doing this calligraphy font, and I also added 2 more doodles next to the font, a map and a little paper airplane. For the border I used my zebra eyeliner and then just sectioned it into 3. So the first column is for writing down the place I traveled to. Next to it I will write down what dates I was there and then my favorite memory from that place. I also decided to add a section where I can write down my travel bucket list, aka places I would like to go in the future. For the very last page of the setup, I decided to go with a lunar calendar. It may not be the most important thing to keep track of in a bullet journal, but I really enjoy having one in mine. I'm super interested in almost anything that has to do with space and the moon, so this is perfect for me. So what I did here was that I wrote all the months on this side, and then I googled the Swedish lunar calendar for 2021. So the white circles represents a new moon, the black a full moon, and the crossed over is for lunar eclipse. I had no idea that there would be a lunar eclipse this year, and actually there seems to be 2, but I can't guarantee though that the calendar that I found online is correct, but I did my best. To finish my lunar calendar off, I added an illustration of the moon phases on the side. Simple but really cute. And that was actually all for my 2021 setup. I really hope that you liked this, and if you did, please leave a like, a comment, and subscribe to my channel for more content like this. I will see you in my next video, guys. Bye for now.